finance climate mitigation and adaptation. Participants agree that the whole of government approach supported by a strong multilateral and multi-level framework is essential to address the triple planetary crisis. Throughout the summit, we share challenges and solutions from the ground, showing that local leadership is one of the most powerful levers to the advanced global resilience. As the mayor of a city in a small island state, vulnerable for any change on climate, I cannot overstate the urgency to accelerate action. The world is interconnected, and every life or dollar lost from climate impacts in any locality, ultimately impacts the world. The summit's main takeaway is clear. I cannot overstate the urgency to accelerate action. The world is interconnected, and every life or dollar lost from climate impacts in any locality, ultimately impacts the world. The summit's main takeaway is clear. Strengthening climate its unique nature and the need for its protection. Second, multi-level governance is essential. Recognizing local and regional governments within the international and local climate, land and biodiversity frameworks and ensuring their participation strengthens implementation. Rio Convention are citing cities and regions as key actors. We also have COP30 Belém policy packages and other providing cities and regions with the right tools, data and support to turn their ambitions into action. Third, access to local finance is the key in unlocking action. Cities face a mismatch between responsibilities and physical space. Funding streams must be integrated. Climate, land, biodiversity, resilience, investment in green infrastructure, transport, climate resilience, urban development are not costs. They are investment in health, safety, and prosperity. Excellencies, the leaders who spoke in the summit from Nouakchott to Caledonia, from Yaoundé to Shanghai are cutting emissions, improving air quality and restoring ecosystems. Their message to the UNEA is simple: advancing sustainable solutions from the territories for a resilient planet begins with enabling those closest to the communities. Would like to extend my sincere appreciation for UNEA for giving me the opportunity. Thanks for the floor, Mr. President. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا.
Thank you, Mr. Ali Nazar. We wholeheartedly appreciate the contribution of major groups and stakeholders in the work of the UNEP governing bodies, and we look forward to continued engagement with you to effectively deliver on our mandates in support of sustainable development. The Assembly has thus concluded this stage of its consideration of Agenda Item 7. I now invite the Assembly to consider Agenda Item 3, entitled Credentials of Representatives. In consultation with the Bureau of the Assembly, it is recommended that we defer the consideration of this item to the plenary meeting to be held on Thursday afternoon, December 11th, to allow sufficient time for the Bureau to examine the credentials of representatives and to submit its report to the Assembly for adoption. I see no objection. It is so decided. For those delegations that have not yet done so, to please submit their credentials at the Badging Center until close of business tomorrow, Tuesday, December 9th. The Assembly has thus concluded this stage of its consideration of Agenda Item 3. I wish now to invite the Assembly to consider Agenda Item 4, entitled Report of the Committee of Permanent Representatives. May I also kindly invite my dear colleague and friend, His Excellency, Mr. Sultan Hajiev, Chair of the Committee of Permanent Representatives, and Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Azerbaijan to UNEP, to kindly present the report of the committee focusing on the key outcomes of the 7th session of the Open-Ended Committee of Permanent Representatives, which concluded its work last Friday.
Good morning. Excellency President of the Assembly, my dear friend, Abdullah bin Ali Al-Amri, Madam Director of UNON Bangura, Madam Executive Director, Deputy Executive Director, Cabinet Secretary Wazirim Heshimiva, she left us, but it's my pleasure to address Excellencies, distinguished delegates, wishing them good morning. Let me underline, it's my privilege and pleasure to address you all and see you all. I would like to present report of the work on the Committee of Permanent Representatives, specifically on the outcomes of the 7th session of the open-ended CPR or OECPR, which was convened from 1st to 5th December 2025 here in Nairobi. The session focused under Agenda Item 6 to the critical task of preparations of decisions and outcomes of the 7th session of UNEA Assembly and considered 15 draft resolutions and 3 draft decisions. I'm pleased to inform the Assembly that the Committee transmitted the draft decision entitled Management of Trust Funds and Earmark Contributions, which is issued as UNEP-7L2 to the Environment Assembly for its adoption. This achievement is a testament of robust preparations during the intersessional period. I wish to express my deep appreciation for the efforts to my fellow CPR Bureau members throughout the intersessional period and last week. Furthermore, I would like to extend particular gratitude to the team of dedicated co-facilitators who worked under complex and demanding circumstances. Let me say at times they were nothing less than exacting, taking forward negotiations with admirable patience and focus. At the closing on Friday evening, the open-ended CPR decided to transmit the following 15 resolutions and 2 draft decisions to UNEA for its further consideration. I'm going to go through the list. Please bear with me. It's going to be a long one. L3 is a draft decision on provisional agenda dates and venue of UNEA-8. L4 is draft decision on medium-term strategy 26-29 and program of work and budget for the biennium 26-27. L5 draft resolution on accelerating global action to promote the climate resilience of coral reefs. L6 draft resolution on karst ecosystem for global water biodiversity, climate resilience and economic development. L7 is draft resolution on preservation of glaciers and the broader cryosphere. L8 draft resolution on active protection of deep sea ecosystems. L9 draft resolution on enhancing the meaningful participation of children and youth in environmental governance. L10 on promoting sustainable solutions for sport for a resilient planet. L11 is on environmental dimensions of antimicrobial resistance. L12, sound management of chemicals and waste. L13, strengthening global response on the management of fires. L14, on environment sustainability of artificial intelligence system. L15, strengthening global response on the massive influx of sargassum seaweed blooms. L16, enhancing international response to address crimes that affect environment. L17, advancing options for international instruments on the environmentally sound management of minerals and metals and guidance for mineral resources circularity. L18, a strengthening of the role of the United Nations Environment Programme headquarters in Nairobi to address environmental challenges and enhance multilateral cooperation to address effective multilateral governance. Last one, L20, maximizing existing resources through enhanced coherence and synergies in multilateral environmental agreements and implementation. The committee also decided to transmit the non-papers which streamlined preambular paragraphs of the draft resolutions to the Assembly, given the insufficient time for consultations in the working groups, and the non-papers will be used as a basis for negotiations concerning such paragraphs at UNEA, on the understanding that delegations can introduce additional text. The committee further decided that the non-paper of the operative paragraph 3 and 4 of the draft resolution entitled Strengthening Global Response on the Massive Influx of Sargassum Seaweed Blooms, discussed in the informal consultation held on 5th of December, be transmitted to UNEA to be used as a basis for negotiations on these two operative paragraphs, on the understanding that delegations can introduce additional text. The committee decided that the non-paper on the operative paragraphs of the draft resolutions advancing options for international instruments on environmentally sound management for minerals and metals and guidance for mineral resources circularity be availed and transmitted ahead of the start of UNEA and used as basis for negotiations on the operative paragraphs, on the understanding that delegations can introduce additional text. I'm pleased to report that further progress was achieved on Saturday during informal consultations convened under the able leadership of co-facilitators. The outcomes of these informal consultations have been made available on e-proposal module in the form of non-papers. This is in addition to L versions of the drafts, which have been transmitted to UNEA and which I've just read out. Further to the decision of the open-ended CPR at its closely plenary held on Friday, 5th December, I'm pleased to transmit to UNEA in the form of non-papers the outcomes of the informal consultations held on Saturday to enable Committee of the Whole to use them as a basis for negotiations within the respective contact groups. I hope to see a significant number of drafts agreed at the closing plenary of Assembly, and I would like to recognize important leadership of the President of UNEA and thank you, Excellency, and your team for the outstanding work and commitment in delivering ambitious and impactful UNEA. Let me also mention, as Chair of CPR, but also representative of the country which hosted COP29 and will be hosting World Urban Forum next year, where environment agenda will be high. This is some things that I've seen, this is some things that I've observed during negotiation process. It's really crucial for us to work together. It's also important for us to walk together. During one of the OECPR sessions here last week, I've invoked Swahili wisdom, which basically refers to the fact that if someone wants to go fast, he can go alone. If someone wants to go far, he needs to work together. Let me emphasize once again, we need to work together, we need to walk together if we want to arrive at something at the end of this week in Nairobi. I would like to express my appreciation for the dedicated commitment and hard work of the CPR members and their teams for commitment and guidance, and a special word goes to my team as well. I also would like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation and gratitude to co-facilitators. Again, only those who witness the work that they've been undertaking can truly appreciate the complexities that they've been facing, but also the perseverance and the tact that they have been managing this task with. I would like to mention that the report of the open-ended CPR is available on UNEA website as UNEP OECPR 7/2, as well as a note by the Secretariat containing a report of the CPR meetings, which has been made available as a document UNEP EA-7 INF 2. Let me conclude by thanking you all and wishing us all good luck and success in our deliberations, discussions, and decisions this week. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا سعادة رئيس لجنة المندوبين الدائمين.
Thank you very much, Chair of the Committee of Permanent Representatives. I would like to take this opportunity to, on behalf of the entire Assembly, express our deep appreciation to the Committee of Permanent Representatives. To the Vice President Tincopa of Peru, Her Excellency Marie Charlotte of the Philippines, and His Excellency Anwar Ben Youssef of Tunisia, as well as the Rapporteur, Her Excellency Jenny Darin of Australia. As stated by the Chair, the draft decision entitled Management of Trust Funds and Earmarked Contributions, issued as document UNEP/EA.7/L.2, has been recommended by the Open-Ended Committee of Permanent Representatives for adoption by the Assembly. In the interest of time, I propose that the Assembly defer the adoption of this draft decision to the closing plenary meeting to be held on Friday, the 12th of December. I see no objections. It is so decided. As stated by the Chair, 15 draft resolutions and 2 draft decisions are outstanding to be finalised. I therefore propose that the Assembly allocate these draft resolutions and decisions, as well as the non-papers, including those non-papers which are the outcomes of the informal consultations held on Saturday, 6th of December, to the Committee of the Whole. These will form the basis for negotiation and will enable us to finalise pending draft resolutions and decisions for transmission to Assembly for its consideration. I see no objections. It is so decided. The Assembly has thus concluded its consideration of Agenda Item 4. The Assembly will now consider Agenda Item 8. Contributions to meetings of the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development and implementation of the environmental dimension of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Delegations will recall that the Environment Assembly, in its Resolution 3/3 on contributions of the Environment Assembly to the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, decided to provide timely substantive input to the annual meetings of the High-Level Political Forum, held under the auspices of the Economic and Social Council, including during the intersessional period between sessions of the Assembly. Delegations will also recall that the Environment Assembly, in the same resolution, decided that the input to meetings of the High-Level Political Forum would be prepared by the Executive Director or the Secretariat of UNEP under the guidance of the Presidents of the Assembly, in consultation with and for consideration by the Committee of Permanent Representatives. Therefore, no further action is needed by the Assembly. The Assembly has thus concluded its consideration of Agenda Item 8. With this, we have come to the conclusion of the present meeting. I would like to remind delegations that the Committee of the Whole will meet immediately following the adjournment of this meeting in this room. Before adjourning, I would like to turn to the Secretariat to see if there are any housekeeping announcements. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. As indicated by the President, the opening plenary of the Committee of the Whole will take place immediately following... Sorry? Thank you, Mr. President. The opening plenary meeting of the Committee of the Whole will take place immediately following the closure of the UNEA opening plenary in this room. Delegations are therefore kindly invited to please remain seated to ensure that we start the opening plenary of the Committee of the Whole on time. A live daily schedule is accessible via the UNEA app as well as on the UNEA-7 website under the tab Program. Delegations are encouraged to download the UNEA app if they had not done so. I wish to remind you that the UN Code of Conduct applies to all UN meetings, and you will find the Code of Conduct available on the UNEA website. The United Nations does not tolerate discrimination or harassment, including sexual harassment, in any of its activities, whether in person or virtual. Once again, we kindly remind delegations to please remain seated for the Committee of the Whole to begin. In addition, I would like to inform delegations that the DSA distribution room is located behind this conference room too. With that, thank you, Mr. President.
شكرا لكم ورفعت الجلسة.
Thank you. The session is adjourned.
Good afternoon, distinguished delegates. Please take your seats. keep doing it. Distinguished delegates, please take your seats. Delegates, can you kindly take your seats?
I think we should
Just start reading.
yeah.
All right, one last time. Good afternoon, distinguished delegates. Again, can you kindly take your seats? All right. I call this meeting to order. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, major groups and stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to open this first plenary meeting of the Committee of the Whole. I look forward to working with all delegations to agree on outstanding draft resolutions and decisions to submit them for final adoption by the 7th session of UNEA. I congratulate Her Excellency Nino Tandilashvili, Vice President of UNEA and First Deputy Minister of Environmental Protection and Agriculture of Georgia, on her election as rapporteur. I am looking forward to working closely with you, Excellency. Today, I have the honor to preside over this critical meeting as the GRULAC representative on UNEA-7 Bureau, coming from one of the world's most vulnerable regions. As a minister from St. Kitts and Nevis, the smallest independent nation in the Western Hemisphere, I am acutely aware of the scale of this responsibility and of the sobering reality that some of the smallest nations are now called to help guide one of the most consequential decision-making processes for the global environment in the year ahead. What we are witnessing in the Caribbean, in Asia Pacific, and across all regions must sharpen our focus on the essential purpose of the Committee of the Whole. We are here to act in the spirit of compromise for the good of people and planet. It has been a long, demanding, and purposeful year of preparations for UNEA-7, and the Bureau fully expects that the Committee of the Whole will work constructively to reach consensus on the resolutions and decisions before us. While the pace of our work is critical, with only 2.5 days available, our true measure is distance. We must collectively deliver on the successful adoption of 15 draft resolutions and 2 draft decisions before us. Let us move with urgency, but also with unity, because we can only go far if we go forward together. Before we proceed with our agenda for this plenary meeting, I would like to state that as this is a UN meeting, the UN System Code of Conduct applies, which should allow everyone to participate in an inclusive, respectful, and safe environment, guided by the highest ethical and professional standards. As we advance in our work, differences of opinion may arise. However, it is imperative that we treat one another and the views expressed with utmost respect, while engaging constructively in the spirit of cooperation. As we start the important work of the committee, I call on all delegations to take on a constructive approach and demonstrate willingness to compromise, building on the work that has already been undertaken during the intercessional period and by the open-ended CPR, as well as the informal consultations held on Saturday. We now turn our attention to the provisional agenda of the committee. As set out in the document UNEP/EA.7/CW/1, which has been uploaded to the committee webpage under the UNEA-7 website. I propose that we adopt the provisional agenda. I see no objection. It is so decided. Thank you. We now move to Agenda Item 2 on organization of work. Noting that the progress during the OECPR was slow, I wish to emphasize we have only 2.5 days to finalize negotiations of 15 draft resolutions and 2 draft decisions. In this context, let me also be very clear. The Committee of the Whole must finalize its work on Wednesday evening. It will not be possible to go beyond this time frame. Let me therefore call on each and every delegation to respect this deadline and make every effort to find agreement within the limited time available. Additionally, the proposed guidance for the organization of work, draft structure, and draft schedule for day 1 have been reviewed by the meeting of the Joint Bureau of UNEA and the CPR held yesterday and made available on the Committee of the Whole webpage. The latest versions of the drafts as transmitted by the OECPR to UNEA, as well as several non-papers, are available on the e-proposal module of the e-delegate platform. Allow me to now outline some critical points regarding the organization of our work for the Committee of the Whole. We will organize our work into 2 contact groups, with each contact group responsible for 2 clusters. Contact Group 1 will consist of clusters A and C, while Contact Group 2 will include clusters B and D, each led by co-chairs. No more than 2 clusters will meet in parallel. Clusters A and B will convene in parallel with clusters C and D. Under the guidance of the UNEA Bureau and of the co-chairs, this arrangement may be revisited and adjusted as necessary in consideration of the progress achieved within each cluster. This approach aims to harmonize and streamline the negotiation process, thereby maximizing the conditions conducive to a successful outcome. The co-chairs will report on the outcomes of the contact groups to the stock-taking plenary of the committee, scheduled for Tuesday, 9 December in the evening, and the closing plenary of the committee in the evening of Wednesday, 10 December. At the stock-taking plenary to take place tomorrow, 9 December at 7 p.m., I hope that we can agree to endorse as many outstanding draft resolutions and decisions as possible, following agreement at reference in the contact groups. At that point, and at that time, we will also decide on how to allocate the remaining time in the contact groups. Drawing from the expertise of the co-facilitators appointed by the UNEA President and the Chair of the CPR, I propose that Contact Group 1 be co-chaired by Ms. Kanako Okana of Japan and Ms. Marie Harelstad of Norway for Cluster A, and Mr. Otumetse of Botswana and Mr. Michael Novashny of Czechia for Cluster C. I also propose that Contact Group 2 be co-chaired by Ms. Sarah El Kouli of Egypt and Mr. Martin Rowe of Germany for Cluster B, and Mr. Nadar Al-Tahrane of Jordan and Mr. Tobias Ogweno of Kenya for Cluster D. The co-chairs will lead negotiations on the drafts under their respective clusters, propose text to resolve deadlocks, and advance discussions, manage schedules and time allocations, convene informal consultations, and manage the process of merging or withdrawal of resolutions. On behalf of the committee, I wish to thank the co-chairs for volunteering to take on this difficult but important work of facilitating our negotiations and consultations. I call on all delegations to engage constructively with respect so that the co-chairs can fulfill their duties and responsibilities. They can only do so if all delegations will fully entrust them with their support. On the documentation of our work, And as decided by UNEA at its opening plenary meeting, the draft resolutions and decisions, as well as the non-papers transmitted by the OECPR to UNEA, will form the basis for negotiations on the understanding that delegations can introduce additional text. Regarding the conduct of our negotiations, negotiations will take place in person and in English. We will begin our negotiations on the draft resolutions and decisions by focusing on the operative paragraphs. I would like to repeat that negotiations will begin on the operative paragraphs. There will be no call for written submissions. Negotiations will take place in the room and in real time, with delegations invited to present proposals directly in the contact groups. Delegations should refrain from introducing new ideas or concepts at this advanced stage of negotiations. I repeat, delegations should refrain from introducing new ideas or concepts at this advanced stage of negotiations. Let me now outline some key points on the meeting schedule. Contact groups meetings are planned from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., and from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Contact groups could continue their work beyond 10 p.m. on an exceptional basis at this stage. I would like to highlight that considerable number of drafts still under negotiation. I would like to draw to your attention that each contact group has only 23 hours of negotiation to finalize, of negotiation time rather, to finalize the drafts. On the organization of informal consultations, co-chairs may convene additional informal consultations, including with specific groups of delegations or proponents as needed. Given the large number of drafts under consideration, additional informal consultations may take place in parallel with the two contact groups, as well as during break times and in the mornings, provided they avoid parallel scheduling with the regional and political group meetings. The Secretariat will announce these consultations in a timely manner via the UNEA app and reflect them on the UNEA-7 website under programs. Any outcomes from these consultations will be reported back to the relevant contact group and will be distributed as non-papers through the e-proposal module as appropriate. I trust that this way of organizing our work, agreed by the UNEA and the CPR Bureau, is both clear and practical. Therefore, I would like to propose that we proceed with the organization of work. It is so decided. Thank you. Oh, I see an intervention by Saudi Arabia.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for your leadership leading us to the successful UNEA-7 outcomes. Back to what you said earlier, we're going to have two contact groups running in parallel at the same time. And also you indicated some informal meeting may happen at the same time with the contact group. Given many of the developing countries have a low representation, so we'd like to have only two contact groups running in parallel without informal meetings happening at the same time to take into account delegation with low numbers. Thank you.
Thank you to the delegate from Saudi Arabia. Your position will be considered. I see an intervention from Turkey.
Thank you for giving us the floor. We just want to add our voice to the distinguished delegate from Saudi Arabia.
Thank you to the delegate from Turkey. We also have an intervention from the Islamic Republic of Iran. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor. Good afternoon, all distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I also would like to echo what was raised by our distinguished colleague from Saudi Arabia. And just for your kind information, that in the Bureau meeting also this issue was raised, and it was the understanding of the Bureau of the UNEA-7 that no more INF should be in parallel with the two clusters meetings at the same time. And I do believe that it should go beyond that kind of consideration that you told, and we need some confirmation that, because, you know, Madam Chair, the size of delegations mainly are small sizes, and then they don't have enough capacity to involve in all these rounds of negotiations at the same time. Therefore, this is a request and put to you. Please consider it seriously and just confirm what would be your mind on this, and then we need to make a decision, because we think that this is a concern for many delegations. Thank you.
Thank you to the distinguished delegate. We now give the floor to Qatar.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like also to add our voice to the proposal came from Saudi Arabia about what has been just discussed. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much. We now give the floor to the Russian Federation.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Now, we noticed in your statement that you said that the meeting of the contact groups could continue beyond 10 p.m. on an exceptional basis. Now, we would like to hear from you confirmation of the understanding which was achieved by us during the course of the open-ended working group. The microphone is off for the delegate of the Russian Federation. Technicians. We would like to draw your attention to the understanding which was achieved during the course of the work of the OECPR regarding the fact that extension of work by the contact groups beyond 10 p.m. will only be possible with the agreement of all of the participants of the said contact group. This is something very important. And furthermore, craving your indulgence, Madam Chair, regarding the way we lead our meetings, we conduct our meetings. Now, before we take a decision and gavel it in, we would like to ask you to make sure that you have checked whether everyone who has requested the floor has had a chance to speak. Because formally you've adopted the decision, but a number of countries simply weren't able to ask for the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the distinguished delegate. Your positions have been noted and will be duly considered. We give the floor to the distinguished delegate from Switzerland. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And first of all, congratulations to your nomination and endorsement as a co-chair. I also present a small delegation, so we always understand the concerns that we have to be inclusive, but also very much committed to a good outcome at this UNEA, and we can support the way forward as you have suggested, as was discussed in the Bureau. I think also important to note that, as I understood, there is always maximum 2 contact groups in parallel, but then we can go informals, informals, informal groups. And in general, those informal groups are smaller groups. They address a certain issue they have to discuss, to resolve, to try to provide solutions, but they will always be brought back to the contact group. So again, then, when we have this principle that we can send certain elements to informals, informals, they can be discussed, countries can propose perhaps compromise language, but it always comes back to the contact group, so to ensure that everybody is fully in the loop and we have an inclusive and transparent process. Thank you.
Norway, the distinguished delegate from Norway, has requested the floor. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Distinguished delegates, Norway supports the suggestion made by Switzerland and the Chair's proposed way forward. Thank you.
We see a request from Bahrain. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to support the proposal put forward by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as well as the concerns raised by the Russian Federation. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate. Uruguay, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to congratulate you for your appointment, and we would like to support your proposed way forward. We agree with Switzerland with the fact that if we conduct informal consultations or informal informals, we will coming back to the contact group to report the advances of those discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Australia would also like to make the most of the next 2.5 days to collaborate and make progress on the resolutions, and so we do support the approach suggested by both Norway and Switzerland. Thank you.
United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The UK would also like to align with Switzerland. We absolutely recognise the concerns raised by our colleagues with small delegations. I think we need to find pragmatic solutions to that. We need to find ways to burden share. We agree entirely with our colleagues that there must be ways to do that, certainly in informals, informals. We won't get through our work if we don't do that. So we agree with your proposed approach, Chair, and really request that those delegations that are small really try and find a way to accommodate this ask, given the magnitude of the task in front of us. Thank you.
Colombia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colombia would like to align with the statement of GRULAC, in which called the President to not having more than 2 informal or formal groups at the same time, given the rationale that has been shared by other delegations in terms of the limitations for some member states with very small delegations. Thank you.
The United Arab Emirates, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'd like to support the intervention made by Saudi Arabia and the remarks shared by the Russian Federation. And especially even if the informal consultation outcomes will come back to the contact group, but for delegations with limited capacities, and especially those that are participating in certain important elements within the text, it doesn't make much sense for them to miss the informal consultations, even though the outcomes would come back to the contact group, but them missing such important discussion in the informal consultation will be really vital in actually the efficiency of going forward with the resolutions. Thank you so much.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. We agree with your proposal's approach as well. Your approach seems to be very pragmatic. We need to deploy flexibility. We need to agree that any decision on extending working time scheduling informal should be agreeable to all, but in all, we agree with Norway, Switzerland, Australia, UK, and others. Thank you.
Tuvalu, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Coming from a small delegation ourselves, we share concerns about how to resolve this way forward. But I think a little bit of clarity from you as Chair would help us understand how to move forward. If we are to have informal informals on a resolution, then we shouldn't be having that same discussion in the contact group. I think that is only reasonable and fair. However, we would support the contact group also meeting at the same time if they're dealing with another resolution, so that we're not having an overlap. And I think that fits quite nicely in the way forward, and I'd seek your guidance on that matter. Thank you.
Algeria, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. We would like just to join those who are asking for not having more than 2 meetings at the parallel, including INF-INFs, next to working groups, because, you know, for the delegations that have like limited number, it's going to be quite difficult for them to follow the 2 clusters and also the INF-INFs at the same time. So please, if you can consider this request. Thank you.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Canada would just like to add our voice to those asking to follow your direction, and we support the interventions by Switzerland, EU, UK, Norway, and others. Thank you.
Azerbaijan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and let me first congratulate you, and we will be glad to follow your guidance in this process. As far as I understood, the CPR Bureau did not have a consensus on the holding of INF-INFs and contact group meetings. What I would propose, maybe we have to start the contact group meetings and then to decide in the meetings how we will move forward with INF-INFs. At this stage, we shouldn't stall the process, just raising the flags and listening to each other how to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the distinguished delegates for their positions, which will be considered. First, let me respond to the Russian delegation, the Russian Federation, and agree with your position that the meetings moving beyond 10 p.m. must have the full consensus of the parties involved. So thank you for that intervention. In terms of the positions raised on the informal, while we understand, I understand the views expressed and wish to note that the joint Bureau of UNEA and the CPR at its meeting held yesterday, 7 December, agreed on the proposed organization of work for the Committee of the Whole to consider, which states that the The additional informal consultations may take place in parallel with 2 contact groups, as well as during break times and in the mornings, provided they avoid parallel scheduling with regional and political group meetings. I really do plead with delegations that, given the limited time available, to have some degree of flexibility for smaller group informal consultations to take place on the understanding that the outcomes of these consultations will be reported back to the relevant contact group for further consideration to ensure transparency and inclusivity, and also note that the discussions in the informal will not be the same as the discussions or resolutions in the contact group at that time. I am fully aware of the challenges faced by smaller delegations, but we have traveled so far to Nairobi to negotiate and have a successful UNEA. We have to make the most of the limited time that we have to show that multilateralism can deliver. I will work very closely with the co-chairs to ensure that the scheduling of the informals will be done, taking into consideration the number of parallel meetings at any one given time. Delegates from Saudi Arabia, you have the floor.
Thank you so much for giving Saudi Arabia the floor one more time. So all the outcomes from the Bureau meetings are considered recommendations, and they are not decisions to be adopted by member states. So we are here as a member state, we see divergent views on the way of conduct to the informal meeting. So that's the first issue we are having. The second issue is the contact group, if they feel the importance to have an informal, as happened last week there in the open-ended CPR, then this is up to the contact group and member states present to decide on this matter. But we are not in a position right now to decide on informal meetings happening at the same time with the contact group. We like to have very inclusive and fair representation from all developing countries, as well as the developed countries, to be part of this process. If you have only informal meeting in this situation, we will not reach consensus. Thank you.
Thank you. The Islamic Republic of Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm taking the floor in my national capacity. Actually, in yesterday's afternoon Bureau meeting, there was no consensus on to have additional in addition to the 2 contact groups parallel meetings. And even if there was any sort of agreement and a recommendation by UNEA Bureau, it's only a recommendation, and the member states here have the right to decide on that as how to deal with that. So as my colleague from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia put it, it is hard and difficult for many delegations to cover INF in addition to the 2 parallel meetings, and it will be unfair to those small delegations, and the result and outcomes would be unbalanced and unfair. So I would request that you should take it into account and not allow for any additional INF at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the distinguished delegates. Your positions will be considered. So I want to thank all the distinguished delegates for their positions raised, and they have been considered. I must also acknowledge and agree with the last two positions raised, that the Bureau, the Joint Bureau, is the recommendation and the decisions are taken here with committee members. We're discussing this now. We have fully heard your positions. In the interest of not prolonging the deliberation on the organization of work and having no more delays to the tremendous work ahead of us, we will proceed along these lines with the organization of work. The position on moving beyond 10 p.m. is one that has to be taken in full consensus with the contact groups, so the position from the Russian Federation is totally understood and presented to us. Secondly, we recognize the challenges faced by the smaller delegations, and we will proceed to have only the contact groups, no parallel meetings with the informal. The organization of work will be revised by the Secretariat and also will be presented for us again. So I want to thank the delegations for their...
It's not presented. We will, so you gavel
So we will gavel, once there's full consensus, the organization of work, and the Secretariat will present it for us to reflect on at any other time. Saudi Arabia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just to confirm our understanding of your proposed way forward, so as was the case in last week, we will not prolong beyond 10 p.m. unless there is consensus within that room to have additional time. And additionally, we will not be having any more than 2 sessions at any given time. So it would be 2 contact groups and no additional infants. And just to confirm, when do you foresee that we would reconsider this matter? As you indicated that this issue will be presented to us once again, unless our understanding is we'll be agreeing on the mode of work of the entire week today. Thank you.
Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And also just to confirm our understanding of the suggestion you just made. So that would mean that the contact groups, they have, as usual, the possibility to decide or to discuss among themselves what kind of tools they use. So if they want to send a group of countries in a huddle, for example, if they would encourage a group of countries to further consider a certain para to come back to next contact group meeting with perhaps new language. So that this can always be done, as I also mentioned, I think by Delegate Puntuvalu, as usual, as we work in this area here. Thank you.
So the organization of work, we will agree that we do not move beyond 10 p.m. unless there is consensus from all participants in the contact groups, that there will be no informals conducted in parallel with the contact groups, and because we do have the stock-taking plenary tomorrow, should there be any need for us to adjust the organization of work, we will do that at that time. Is this position agreeable? Saudi Arabia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That is certainly agreeable. But just to confirm, you mean 2 contact groups, not any more than 2 contact groups. Thank you.
Yes, correct. Not any more than 2 contact groups. May I take it that we proceed with this organizational arrangement? It is so decided. Thank you. We will thus revert to this agenda item at our stocktake plenary meeting scheduled for Tuesday evening. We now move to the closing of this opening plenary. I propose that we allow for contact groups to begin their work at 2 p.m. today, based on the agreed structure. Let me reiterate that I count on your full and active support so that we can finalize our work with a successful result by Wednesday evening at the very latest. I now invite the Secretariat to make some logistical announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is to inform you that Contact Group 1, which will be looking at Cluster A, will meet from 2 p.m. in Conference Room 1. Contact Group 2, which will be looking at Cluster B, will meet from 2 p.m. in this room, Conference Room 2. Delegates are also reminded that the live daily schedule is accessible via the UNEA app, as well as on the UNEA website under the tab Program. As I mentioned at the closing plenary meeting, delegations are please encouraged to download the app because the most updated information is available on the app. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. Distinguished delegates, let us now not let the perfect stand in the way of doing good. Given the lack of sufficient progress so far, we all need to understand the sense of urgency. In short, I call on all delegations to realize the seriousness of this situation and start compromising as we have just done. Thank you all. We shall resume our meeting in plenary tomorrow evening, 9 December at 7 p.m. This plenary is adjourned.